You read chapter 28. I am going to finish the story now. Um, I'm going to start on page 128, chapter 29. Maddie is halfway through eating her supper when she hears a rumbling sound. A shiny black car rumbles up the gravel drive, parks next to Crystal Sweet's orange one. Who's that? Miss Sweet asks. Uncle Potluck sets his corn cob down, leans far around Miss Sweet to see out the kitchen window, and as soon as he sees, he shoots back to sitting straight. It is Principal Bonet. Mama traps Maddie to get the door. Principal Bonet has regular shoes on and regular jeans. She's not dressed like a principal or a mountain climber. She's dressed like a regular person. Hello, Maddie. I want to check on your uncle. May I come in? Maddie lets Principal Bonet in. Now, it's weird having a principal in your house, even a regular looking one. Everybody at the table sits taller, Maddie notices. Uncle Potluck, everyone. Hello, Mama says. Hello, Principal Bonet says. Then she turns to Uncle Potluck. Sir, she says, and she salutes. Before Maddie has time to ponder the spirit in which the salute is meant, Uncle Potluck laughs a big laugh, one that shakes his shoulders and his belly and even his knees. So he has to put a hand to it to keep it from hurting. You know about that? He said. Of course I know, Robert. I am the principal. I see all. Miss Sweet humps, unimpressed. Potluck can see the future in an ear of corn. Uncle Tommy slaps the table. Caught! He laughs. Let's see you hound dog true your way out of this one. Now, for a second, Uncle Potluck's silent. Nervous, Maddie thinks. Can't think of anything to say with Principal Monet right there in the kitchen. But then he does say something. Clears his throat. He tilts his hat and says, Tommy, your lack of faith is a sorry disappointment. Sylvie, would you do me the honor of allowing me to examine your cob? Mama pushes her plate to Uncle Potluck. Uncle Tommy waves Principal Bonet to an empty chair. Sit, he says. This might take a while. Uncle Potluck looks around the table, though Maddie notices that he skips looking at Principal Bonet. Just looks at everyone else and then at the cob on the plate. He says, lifting Mama's corn with a fork. Before I begin, it is important that everyone present understands that these readings are merely snapshots rather than complete prognostication. The cob tells us about this moment, offering a keen and discerning reader clues about the future. Get on with it, Uncle Tommy says. Uncle Potluck holds the corn up high, studies it up and down and around. I see, he says, and oh, very interesting. And well, now, how about that? And finally, and there you go. Where'd I go? Mom asks. Uncle Potluck raises his knife, points it at the base of the cob. See how these large bottom kernels are nibbled off clean? That indicates that a person who is taking it indicates a person who is taking root. While these here, and he points to the tip of the ear, where the tiny kernels are bit off willy-nilly, show hope. Maddie steals a look at Quincy. She looks bored, Maddie thinks. Everyone else is leaning in, listening, especially Mama. Yes, indeed, says Uncle Potluck. This is a sign of good fortune. The beginning of a new and satisfying adventure for anyone willing to stand firm and face it. Uncle Potluck sets the cob down on the plate. Everyone claps, including Principal Bonet. Uncle Potluck's ears red up. Thank you, Potluck, Mama says. Uncle Potluck shrugs. No, don't thank me. Thank the corn. Uncle Tommy pushes his plate across the table. There are 3 cobs on it, clean picked, not a kernel in sight. What am I beginning? He asked. Indigestion, says Uncle Potluck. The corn predicts Alka-Seltzer. Now who's next? Me, Maddie thinks. Pick me, pick me. Tell me what kind of person I am. Tell me what I am beginning. She thinks it tight and loud inside her head. Me, knowing Uncle Potluck will hear it. But he doesn't. What he hears, what Maddie hears, what everyone hears, is matter-of-fact Quincy Sweet, flunking me. Quincy nudges her plate towards Uncle Potluck, but before he can touch it, Miss Sweet snaps up Quincy's cob. Let me. She's my niece after all. She holds Quincy's corn up like Uncle Potluck did, says, and aha, like he did. Okay, Miss Sweet says. Okay, I have it. Okay. So now all these rows are totally straight. See? That says that Quincy's future is all mapped out perfectly. Quincy's going to be super popular and she's going to have lots of awesome boyfriends. And the next thing you know, she'll be prom queen like I was. It is the best fortune Miss Sweet can, or it's the best fortune that Miss Sweet could think of. Maddie can tell. She's trying to be nice, but Quincy just watches her dinner plate. It doesn't move, the dinner plate, and neither does Quincy. Miss Sweet turns to Mama. You can tell she's going to have a lovely figure. She's already in a B cup. Maddie crosses her arms over her chest, sees Quincy do the same. Miss Sweet doesn't see it. She's turned her look on Potluck. I was totally flat until I was 14, she says. But girls today, they just mature so much faster. I read it in People. They call themselves tweens now, too. And then Miss Sweet starts like talking about how tweens wear lip gloss and tweens do texting and how all tweens want to do is be grown up and they think and all they think about is boys. Maddie watches Quincy's face, knowing that all she's thinking about is stabbing her aunt with a fork. It's all true, Miss Sweet says. And there have been like studies. Nobody studied me, says Quincy. It doesn't sound a bit plunky either. Miss Sweet starts to say something else, but then Quincy grabs the corn on the cob, chomps 3 big bites. There, study that, Quincy says. And before her cob hits the plate, the porch door is slamming shut and Quincy is stomping out through the garden dust. They're prone to drama, too, says Miss Sweet. And for a minute, well, the room's quiet. Feels like anything could happen. Maddie waits for Miss Sweet to stand up and go after Quincy, or Mama, or Uncle Potluck, pick up someone else's corn, maybe even Maddie's corn. Then go on with fortune telling. Maddie could just stay here and listen about her fortune and never have to go out and talk to the moon at all, except for none of that happens. What happens is that Maddie Breen does a small, brave thing. She stands up, everyone's looking. She goes outside, out into the half dark, past the bean teepees and tomato cages and the stone rabbit standing lonely guard, up past the tangle of pumpkin vines, past Mama's friend's tent. Up she walks, up the rise, to the woods, to the rock ledge by the apple tree, up to Uncle Potluck's rock, to Maddie's rock, to the place that she knows even in half dark, Quincy will be. Chapter 31. Quincy's on the rock, sitting on it, knees up, arms folded over them, toolbox and bag papers at her side. Poor Mo, Maddie says. Maybe it's a dumb thing to say. Maybe she should have let Quincy talk first. But Quincy talks second. Poor Mo, she says, like a secret code. She puts her papers on the grass, Quincy does, drops her toolbox on top of them, making room for Maddie to sit on the rock. Maddie sits, pulls close her own knees. The clouds move around. Some of the light changes, tinting the sky as dark as Miss Sweet's lipstick, Maddie thinks. Quincy must notice, too. I wear lip gloss at school, she says. Quiet. I do, too. Or did, once, Maddie says. I don't say much at school. I didn't talk at all that morning, and by lunch, the gloss had turned to glue. I thought my lips would rip off if I tried to open my mouth. It's a silly thing to say. So silly, Quincy laughs and laughs, like she's going to roll right off the rock. The kind of laugh Maddie can't help laughing with. It's true, Maddie said, still laughing around and around, like a screw untwisting. Quincy unfolds her legs, divides her hair for braiding, though she has no braids for the ends, and the one braid frees as soon as she moves to the next. A breeze comes, a cloud shifts, slivering a half light over the trees, opening the darkening sky to the moon. I must have heard your lip gloss story, Quincy says. Maybe Miss Moon came out for the lip gloss story. But the lip gloss story is not the only one needs telling, not the one Maddie needs the moon to hear. There's another story, a twist tight story coiled up inside her, and there with Quincy on the rock beside her, Maddie tells it. It starts out backwards from the way she's told it before to Mo and Minnie and herself. She was so big, it starts. So big I thought she'd swallow me up. The story goes on that way, button turning at to top. The magic word, ogre. Notebook pages soaked dark. Stories fist crunched. She, Maddie, had said ogre. Ogre, ogre. How the girl said it. Ogre. The sound out way. How the word had been in the story in Maddie's notebook, in her yellow notebook, how the girl had come upon the notebook in Maddie's backpack. After looking in all the other backpacks, how she had come in small to the coat room, how her name was Star, how she had come in looking for change. The words loosen, unwind. Maddie feels herself breathe slow and deep in and out. Poor Mo, says Quincy. That was good. I mean, it was bad. A bad thing that happened. But man, how you told it was good. No wonder you're a writer. You're good at stories. I am, Maddie thinks. And it's not a question, it's a statement, a truth, matter of fact. I am, she says. She does not know how loud she said it, does not know if she'd whispered it or shouted it, doesn't know that she hears an echo, like the kind that you hear on mountaintops, except this echo is not bouncing off the mountains or the woods or the tent or the house. It's not an outside echo at all, it's an inside echo, and Maddie hears it, big and round and full as the moon. It's darker now, the moon's high above. Quincy looks up and Maddie looks up, both looking up to the brave round moon. Well, now what? Whispers Quincy. Well, you can tell your things, Maddie said, if you want. I did. Before you got out here, I told about Dewey and Nicolette and Crystal, all that. Quincy plunks. All that. Same stories Maddie's already heard, same plunky things that she's already said. It won't work, Maddie thinks, or Maddie wants to tell her. Trusting the moon means saying things that are secret, things that matter. She starts to tell Quincy so, but the moon is lightening Quincy's face. She's looking up, twisting her hair in a wishful braid, which is how Maddie sees, finally, how she knows that the things Quincy has said do matter. This is Quincy's secret. Another light, round and white, bobs off the back porch, through the garden, into the yard, lights up a corner of the friend tent, and it stops there, tilts, shines back up the rise. Maddie, it's Mama. Up here, Maddie says. Mom's got a flashlight, the firefighter kind that Uncle Potluck or Uncle Tommy uses. And the white off it so hard, Maddie needs to turn her eyes away to lift them back to the moon. I put the sleeping bags in an extra flashlight in the tent, Mom says. You want to put on your pajamas? Where's Crystal? Asked Quincy. The lights are on in the rental house. The closet door won't close. Tommy said he'd take a look. I'll sleep in my clothes, Quincy plumps. I don't feel like changing. Maddie, Mama asked. Maddie shakes her head. I'm okay the way I am tonight. Mama stands there, the flashlight pointed at the rock. I better get back, she says finally. Your principal has a substitute janitor coming tomorrow. She'll need potluck to tell what has to be done before school starts. Maddie shields her eyes to see past Mama to the kitchen window, watches the Uncle Potluck shadow fiddle with his hat. He's so shy around her, Mom says. It's cute. Shy. Now, Maddie has been called shy, knows it does not feel cute. My notebook, Maddie says. It's still under your pillow, Mom says. I didn't. Would you give it to Uncle Potluck, Maddie says. My custodial wisdom notes. He can give them to Principal Bonet if he wants. Are you sure, Maddie? Maddie, sure. You want me to walk you down to the tent? Mama asked, lifting the flashlight again. It's pretty dark out here. Quincy shakes her head. We'll find our way, Maddie says. And they do find their way, Maddie leading, Quincy following, down the rise to the tent to the sleeping bags. The flashlight Mama left in the tent makes it bright enough for Quincy to draw. She pushes some bag pages to Maddie. I can draw and listen for the moon, she says. Can you listen and write? Probably she can. But for now, Maddie just listens. Listen to Uncle Potluck's motorcycle growling down the drive, to Miss Sweet leaving for work, Principal Bonet saying that she'll stop by again tomorrow, if that's all right. Uncle Potluck saying how her visit would be an honor. Listens to the scritch and scratch of pastels on grocery bags, to the slow and stop of it, and later to the sweet, sweet, sweet of Quincy Sweet's quiet snore. Listens for something else too, something she has not listened for in a long time. She listens for a story, one inside her head that she can write down. A Brave Mo story, maybe. Or she could rewrite an old story. She still remembers some from her yellow notebook. A breeze ripples the tent sides, flickers the warning labels at the seam. Maddie thinks about the stick man, wonders if he's still enjoying that ride. She puts her pencil to the rough of the bag paper. In the morning, when she wakes, Maddie's surprised by what she finds in the paper bag page, what she has written. It's only the beginning of the story, but it's a good beginning, she thinks. The kind that makes you want to know what comes next. In Miss Morgan's fifth grade class, you don't need to stand in front of the blackboard to introduce yourself. And it is not just the new kids doing the introducing, it's everyone. You are all new to me, Miss Morgan says. And so they are moving down the rows one by one, each person standing and saying their name, each person standing saying something interesting about themselves. There are 7 desks before Maddie, 7 people introducing themselves. The first 2 Maddie doesn't remember the name of. Her heart beating, swoosh, 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 in her ears covering up everything. She made her eyes watch their faces, though, and the second one, a boy, well, he smiled at her. Next was another boy. I'm David Brown, he said. He had a dog, a big one, and he had taken it to obedience school all summer. But still, the dog wouldn't sit on command. Makes Maddie think of Stella. Underneath, she thinks. Underneath, maybe, the dog knows. Which gets her thinking about the underneath of all these kids in her class. The parts they maybe don't share right away. But are as the hound dogs true as their hair color or their shoe size or anything else that you can see. Maddie misses the next girl's name, thinking that. Tells herself, pay attention. And at the same time, thinking that maybe most people aren't going to pay attention to when she introduces herself either. Which makes the whole whooshings quiet some. Not all the way, though, but some. End of the first row, a girl, Nadia Benedict. She has a box full of fossils under her bed. Beginning of row 2, Maddie's row. Maddie feels her face reddening, feels her heart thump, 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 thumping. Katie Culp. She has a twin brother, Joe, and went to the Grand Canyon on vacation. Next, says Miss Morgan. Maddie wants to look at the next person's face as he stands, but her own face is reddening so much. All she can do is look into her notebook. It is a new notebook, a regular one, a blue with wire spiraling around one edge. Inside, she has written some of the stories she remembered from before and some new stories too, about the stone rabbit and even one about Uncle Potluck's hat. Maddie puts her hand on the notebook, makes herself listen to the person at the desk in front of her. I'm Jed Kim, he says. I have 7 chickens. And then says their names, smooth as eggs. Who's next? Miss Morgan asked. Maddie stands, keeps one hand on her notebook. I'm Maddie Breen, she says. Her voice is quiet, but no one says speak up. Everyone can hear. I write stories. All right, there it is. We completed a book, and that book is Hound Dog True. Congratulations. It always feels good to end a book. All right, I will meet you for Gimp Kit.